Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora,
Woo!
Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
And most importantly, of course, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. You have a thought, theory, opinion, or question you'd like us to address, as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And the good news is, if you're not watching live right now and you can't get a question in live, that's okay. The tip link is good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're listening to our podcast, either on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, thank you to everybody who signed up to our podcast feed, or if you happen to be watching this show a little bit later in the day when we're not live, you can still use the tip link and send in a question, and we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. All right. Busy night last night. After watching a whole ton of football, also watched the new episode of Dune, which is going really good. I watched the final 3 episodes of Arcane. Didn't love the ending, to be honest with you, but again, I love that show, so that was good.
I haven't gotten into Arcane yet, but my youngest went over to her friend's house and they binged
the final 3 episodes.
Yeah, and she was saying like she really loves the show, but she didn't like the characters that didn't continue on. Let's just say, she wanted them to go. So I can't give away anything, but
I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
But I mean,
the outcome was not what she wanted.
Yeah, you know what? I still think my favorite animated show of all time. Didn't love the ending, but whatever. Anyway, guys, we got a bunch of things to talk about here today, so let's not waste any time and get right into it. And we're going to start with this. One of the big movies coming out in December is Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Sir.
This time, got Keanu Reeves in there as Knuckles. Not as Knuckles, I'm sorry.
Shadow.
Which is also the name of my dog. One of my dogs. Is in there. Of course, everybody's really excited about that. And a brand new trailer just dropped this morning for it. And I love it. There's one thing I didn't like about it, and I'll talk about that in a second. First of all, there's a big switcheroo between this trailer and the last trailer.
Yeah.
Because the last trailer made it look like this time Team Sonic and Robotnik are teaming up to take on Shadow. If I can't rule the world, I might as well save it.
Right.
And that's what made it look like they were going to be working together this time. This trailer, completely the opposite.
Well, I'm wondering if it's showing us like, oh, the first trailer we got was like Act 3 or somewhere in Act 2, and this second trailer is actually Act 1. Where do they make the switch? Because clearly there's a switch.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe just the first trailer was completely misdirection. Maybe. But this one clearly, Robotnik and Grandpa, they're working with Shadow on this one.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, again, I love the trailer. I thought it looked great. I love the Pokemon joke. Yes, you look like the Pikachu or whatever it was. I thought that was hilarious. The one thing I didn't like about the trailer, all right, is this trailer feels way too much like Sonic 2. There's a new creature and it's being manipulated or teaming up with Robotnik, and at the end, you're probably going to get that. So it kind of felt like the exact same plot as number 2, except instead of Knuckles, now it's Shadow.
Yeah, except now we'll get a Shadow series instead of a Knuckles
Shadow
series.
Paramount Plus series. Hopefully it'll be better than the Knuckles one. But whatever. I still thought it was a great trailer. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Ray, what did you think about it? Because I know you've been looking forward to this movie more than anybody.
I understand what you're saying about like it feeling the same. It does. There's aspects of Shadow that like are not like at all like Knuckles' story. So that's gonna be what the difference is. I think anyone who's familiar with the games, everyone could see the story, even from the trailers. Just watching the trailers, it's easy to predict what's gonna happen. It's just the execution of how they do it is more, I think, is what matters here. Like, and whatever they decided to change from the game story, like if people like it, like the changes they do make from the original story of Shadow, because a lot of Shadow's story you could see in this trailer. Like even when he's holding up the blaster, people went nuts for that because that's one of the things that he's known for. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. It's just been a really, really tiring Monday, so I don't seem as hyped, but I'm super hyped about this movie. It's the last movie I think I'm looking forward to
for the year.
Yeah, for the year, and it has the possibility of hitting my top 5 if it works. You know what I mean?
Jonathan, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like there's a bit of like a mind wipe they thought they did to us from the first trailer. They're like, don't worry about that. This is the story.
Yeah.
So I'm a little confused about that. I still am holding on to the fact that I think Robotnik's going to turn face. He's going to turn good with his grandfather. I think at first they tried to harness that, like they tried to harness Knuckles in it. Yes, it does echo part 2 where I said Knuckles was Shadow, where they did it with Knuckles. And then they realized, oh, they can't work with this guy.
Do you think it turns out that Pop is actually the big bad guy? That maybe maybe this time Robotnik and Shadow join up with Team Sonic because
Could be.
Pop is actually the big evil one?
He might not even be real. He could be just like
Not even real.
like the grandpa. You know how there's 2 of them, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he might have been like sent from a time travel something. I don't know how there's 2 is what I'm saying. But
it's kind of funny you said that because I felt like there might be some time travel elements to this movie, so I'm not sure.
But Robotnik seems to recognize him as his dad.
My only gripe here with this trailer is I'm not going to pretend that I know how to do like CGI graphics and stuff like that. There are parts where it feels like the CGI is not in that world. You know, but that's the hardest thing I think for people to try to do, like put an actual talking hedgehog in the living room with real people and actually make it look like he's
you know what,
there.
You're right, that scene did look a little odd, but I think because it's so brightly lit and it's just a living room. But when you see them in the cityscape, they blended
they look great.
Better.
There's just parts of it where I'm like, whoa, it looks like a sticker on the screen. You know what I mean? But I'm super excited for this. I'm super hyped.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about the new trailer for Sonic 3? I love it, but it kind of does a couple things that the other one didn't do. It makes it look like Shadow and Robotnik are on the same side. That's a complete opposite from the other trailer. And it does kind of feel a little bit like Sonic 2 storyline with Knuckles joining up with Robotnik and now Shadow. I don't know. Whatever. The trailer still looks great, and I can't wait to watch it. What do you guys think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we got a off the top here, or a breaking news thing here.
Okay.
Breaking news here. You guys know that there is a Voltron movie coming. Didn't they just announce Henry Cavill?
I thought so.
Yeah, Henry Cavill's going to be part of it. They cast that kid. Well, we've got 3 new castings.
Okay.
Wait,
3
so
brand new ones.
Wait, hold on. This is actually going down? How come I've been out of this loop? I didn't even know Henry Cavill was a part of this thing.
You did graphics for it.
I might not been here then. That might have been that.
I think that was a week you weren't here.
Oh, maybe it was a week you weren't here.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, 3 new castings.
This is crazy.
As multi-Emmy winner Sterling K. Brown.
Woo.
Sensation Rita Ora.
Okay. My
and
sister.
From Nancy Drew, amongst a lot of other things, John Kim have apparently all joined the cast of the upcoming Voltron film. Now, I'm reading this now for the first time, so let's get into this. Deadline's reporting this. Sterling K. Brown, Rita Ora, and John Kim have been cast in the Amazon MGM Studios Voltron movie, joining previously announced stars Daniel Quinn-Toy and Henry Cavill. Ross and Marshall Thurber is directing from a script he wrote with Shanman. Plot details are under wraps, but Thurber shared a video message with Voltron fans during VoltCon. I didn't even know such a thing existed, in which he shared, "I want to make sure that we stay true to the heart and the spirit of Voltron in this film. We're going to be introducing an entirely new generation of pilots. We've reimagined Voltron for the live-action world, but we're going to stay true to those iconic elements that you love, that I love, and I'm so excited to share it with you." All right. Getting Sterling K. Brown, this is not a small thing.
I loved him in, what was that movie he just did about the American Fiction? Wasn't he in
American
American Fiction?
He played his brother.
Yeah.
He was his brother in American Fiction. Did he get an Oscar nomination for that?
I'm going to look it up, but I think
it was either Oscar or Critics' Choice or some other nomination for that. He's won multiple Emmys for his role in This Is Us. And then, of course, a lot of people will remember he was Killmonger's dad. He was King T'Chaka's brother.
Yeah, he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. This, like, listen, I don't want this to get glossed over. Getting Sterling K. Brown to be in this movie, that's a big deal. Like, I obviously thought it was a very big deal when they got Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
But getting Sterling K. Brown, this is literally an Oscar caliber actor. You've just added to this.
I had no idea this movie was happening. Now, other than the next story that we're about to do, this is probably the biggest news for me today. Just taking it all in.
Happy Monday, man.
You know, okay. The next movie we're going to talk about, and this one, these properties have been on the shelf for a long time, always in development, thinking about doing. Give it up to Amazon MGM for actually getting the ball rolling on these two properties that I've been dying.
Well, let's not worry about the second one. Let's not worry about the second one.
On this property that I've been dying to get a movie of. The casting, Sterling Brown, okay, Rita Ora. Ooh,
I'm not gonna lie to you. I love Rita Ora.
I love Rita Ora too, but is this gonna end up being like the campy Voltron? A campy Voltron? All just because her.
I got news for you. Voltron is campy.
Yeah, but then
is it not? Is Voltron not campy?
Yeah, it is a little campy.
Right? When it's at its best, it's kind of campy.
But those lions, like, I love how the lions have their own little place. Like the fire one is in the volcano. And I just can't wait to see the lions in action. But this is great news. That means the ball is rolling. We're gonna get this. It's no more like, oh, we penned the script. It's in development. This is happening. And I'm super excited.
Yeah, hey, welcome to Monday, Ray.
Yeah. And
my voice is cracking just because how excited I am for a Voltron movie.
And of course, Rita Ora is married to Taika Waititi. So some creative stuff there. But again, I mean, if you would have told me a number of months ago that, number one, hey, John, the Voltron movie is going to happen. And number two, it's going to have Henry Cavill and Sterling K. Brown in it. I don't know that I would have believed you. I may have called you a liar. So this is a pretty interesting development. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Voltron has just added some award-winning talent, including Sterling K. Brown, Rita Ora, and John Kim. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Speaking of movies that a lot of people have never thought was or is going to happen, and listen, I still have my doubts that it's going to happen. You got to talk about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. One of my big guilty pleasure movies, and a guilty pleasure because the movie does suck, but I love it and I love watching it. I almost said Val Kilmer.
Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph Lundgren, who's a very different person than Val Kilmer, version with Courtney Cox was in that too, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Courtney Cox, Dolph Lundgren version of He-Man back in the day. And, you know, they have talked for decades, like literally decades, about getting a new one going. There was even that one time that it started, John M. Chu was going to direct one.
Mm-hmm.
And remember then, at one point, like 8 years ago, it was so, like, they were so close. They even had like some concept art come out for Battle Cat.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? And it looked awesome. And we were all super excited about it. Well, this one is happening. They've already done a bunch of announcements, but none bigger than this. As a couple of days ago, it's been announced that Idris Elba. Ray's happy about this.
Perfect.
This is like the best Monday of Ray's life.
Perfect.
Idris Elba.
I'm sorry. Perfect.
Has signed on to be in Masters of the Universe, and he's going to be our new Man-at-Arms. Deadline writes the following. Idris Elba is set to join Masters of the Universe, the Travis Knight. By the way, Travis Knight.
Perfect.
The guy who directed Kubo and the Two Strings, the guy who directed probably like the best live-action Transformers movie in Bumblebee. He's directing this. The Travis Knight directed film for Amazon MGM. Sources said that Elba will be playing the role of Duncan Man-at-Arms. The film is a co-production between Escape Artists and Mattel. The movie stars Alison Brie as Eva Lynn, which I love that casting. Nicholas Galizine? I have no idea how to pronounce his stupid name, but he was in that one Netflix movie. He was pretty good in it. I don't know much else besides him other than that. Camila Mendez from Riverdale as Tila. I like that casting too. Scripted by Chris Butler. The film was produced by Todd Black, Jason Blumenthal, Robbie Benner, and Steve Tisch. All right.
I'm pretty sure he appreciates that, John. That his name is stupid.
I didn't say his name was stupid. I said how to pronounce it.
Okay.
Galitzine?
Jonathan is the grammar right here, the grammar man.
I think it's Galatzine, like magazine.
Galaxy, yeah.
Okay, Galitzine. There we go. Who was in that little rom-com
Okay.
with Anne Hathaway?
Oh, you called it a stupid rom-com.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stupid
Oh,
rom-com.
sorry. I thought you
Not
said
that
I don't know how to
Nicholas is
pronounce that
stupid.
stupid name.
Ray causing drama. I don't need. What's this I hear you about you calling my name stupid? I never said that.
We just said you were in a stupid movie. Calm down.
Yeah, I just said the movie were stupid. Actually, you know what? It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. The one that he did
She's
with
the
Anne
older
Hathaway.
woman in it, right?
What's that? Yeah, she's the older woman dating a young pop star dude. You know what? It's a good little movie. I actually quite liked it.
That was on Netflix.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it was either Netflix or Amazon or I don't know, Quibi. one of them. I can't remember which one was on. Anyway. So let's get to the headline here. It's Idris Elba. Idris Elba playing Man-at-Arms. I wouldn't have thought you could get a guy the caliber of Idris. You know, this is 2 stories in a row. Like, I didn't think you could get a guy the caliber of Sterling Kane Brown to be in a Voltron movie. I didn't think you could get a guy the caliber of Idris Elba to pop up in the He-Man movie.
This might be the best news. The first 3 stories.
No,
ever
you had
told.
like the best Monday in your
And like,
life.
I'm starting to think, am I going to pass away soon? Is this my gifts right now? Like,
Oh yeah, the
these
first 3
movies?
stories have been Sonic, Voltron, and now
Voltron,
Master of
He-Man.
the
Look, the
Universe.
authority Idris Elba just brings with his
Yes.
voice and then his stature, and then put armor on that and have him leading a troop of, just like warriors into battle. Perfect. There's no other person I could have put in this role. Like, I didn't even think about him, but now that he's there, it's perfect for me at least.
There were a couple of guys I thought of. One was, he might be a little too old for it. I still would have bought it. Was J.K. Simmons.
Oh, okay.
I probably could have seen him.
Well, he's so
Oh
ripped.
yeah, he's ripped.
He's
too,
totally
right?
jacked.
JK.
Speaking of totally jacked, Stephen Lang from
Oh, he
the
would have been good too.
from the
yeah.
Avatar movies, Slang as he likes to be called.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he would have been a good Man-at-Arms. I didn't even think about Idris Elba. Then as soon as I heard Idris Elba, I'm like, yeah,
They cast,
yeah, you got
Did
it.
they cast Tila? They did, right?
Yeah, the
Alison
girl
Brie?
from Riverdale.
Alison Brie.
No, Alison
no.
Brie is Eva Lynn.
Oh, okay.
The girl
Yeah,
from Riverdale
because,
is Tila.
in terms of the cartoon, I guess Man at Arms is the foster father of Tila,
Yes.
right?
So
Okay.
now however they're going to do
yeah,
it in
yeah,
the movie.
it doesn't really,
Don't
there's
know.
Man at Arms, man.
Now, the one thing I'm still a little bit iffy on this is this Nicholas Galitzine.
First off, that name.
Yeah, what a stupid name. First of all, I mean, we all agree, right? No.
Nicholas G.
Nicholas G.
There you go.
I'm going to call him G Spot from now on. Hey, G Spot. Okay, so
You really want this guy to like you, huh?
again, I thought he was really good in that little movie. I did.
Yeah, that doesn't count for all the instances.
Okay, here's the thing. I still have the same feelings today that I did when they first announced him. I think he looks like a good Prince Adam, but he ain't look nothing like He-Man. And I still wonder if this is going to be a situation where he will be actually Adam and they'll have an entirely different act, like they did with Shazam. They had one
Right.
actor play the kid, the one actor play the hero. I wonder if they're going to do that, if they're going to CGI his body. I don't know what they're going to do.
You think they should have switched this with Voltron, Henry Cavill with He-Man, and then him as Keith? Because I'm assuming Henry Cavill is playing the lead commander in the who I think it's Keith or
In
whatever
Voltron?
whoever the front man is of the team. Do you think that would have been a better move to switch them around?
I mean, first of all, for all we know, Henry Cavill's going to be the man in the chair.
Oh yeah,
right? I mean, he's not even one of the Lion pilots, although that would seem like a waste of opportunity.
yeah, it does.
Listen, there's not many guys that you could get to play He-Man. It's the same kind of problem that you're running into with who do you get to play Kratos
Yeah.
in God of War, right? The one thing about He-Man is they'll probably need you'll probably need a better actor than you'll need that's going to play Kratos, because Kratos is a man of few words.
Right.
Boy.
Oh, by Amazon, by the way, God of War series.
Yeah, also by Amazon.
Jeez,
Amazon's
it's
kind of
Amazon?
killing it right now.
Wow.
So, I mean, so I'm still a little sure, but you know what? We'll talk and worry about the whole Adam He-Man problem later. For now, it's Idris Elba. And you know what? Listen, automatically, just like that, the credibility of this project has just gone up 5 spots just by having Idris Elba join it. So I think he's going to be great in this role. That voice that he has is so awesome that, like, it's just, again, it's not a name I thought of when I was trying to think of who could play Man-at-Arms. And then once I heard the name, I'm like, yeah, you got him.
Aren't we just waiting for Skeletor now?
Yeah. Now the big
big
question
question.
is Skeletor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I heard somebody say that they weren't going to have Skeletor in the first one, that they were going to hopefully build up to a Skeletor in a second one. Kind of like how Matt Reeves' Batman didn't have Joker in the first one per se.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that. I
on.
just don't see how you do, because he's not just, Skeletor isn't just a recurring adversary to He-Man. He's the adversary
the
to
yin
He-Man.
and yang. They're yin and yang.
Yeah, they're yin and yang. Absolutely. So, I mean, I'm sure we'll get an announcement on Skeletor. Now that we've got Man-at-Arms mentioned, I'm sure we'll get an announcement. I'm sure he's already cast. I just don't know who it is.
Yeah. Can't
Probably not Frank Langella, though. I'm gonna guess it's probably not him this
Maybe
time.
someone
around.
else with a stupid last name.
Says the guy with the last name Campea. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I think this is awesome. Idris Elba has joined as Man-at-Arms in the upcoming He-Man movie. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. I'm telling you,
I don't know why I'm crying right now. I'm just so happy about all
G-Spot
this.
is going to catch on. I'm telling you right now, G-Spot's going to catch on. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, it's been a weekend at the box office that a lot of people have been looking forward to see what the results would be. Of course, we've got Wicked opened up this weekend and Gladiator opened up this weekend. Now, Wicked, they projected to be making somewhere between $65 and $80 million opening weekend. We all thought it would probably exceed that. Gladiator, I think, was tagged somewhere around the $50 to $60 million mark, and it got right there. As the reports are now in, Wicked set several new box office records by making $114 million in its opening weekend. That makes it the third largest opening of 2024 so far, only behind Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. So it's the third biggest opening of the year. It is the biggest opening of any Broadway to movie adaptation ever. And it set several other marks as well that are put in throughout there. Now, as far as Gladiator made $55.5 million on its opening weekend, which is strong considering, what did we say the budget for that movie was?
103.
$103 million for that Gladiator, which, by the way, when I found out that number, I was a little bit surprised. You know, sometimes you see a movie that had a huge budget and you're like, I don't see the money on screen.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, if that movie really was, if Gladiator 2, I didn't love Gladiator 2, but I liked it. If that movie only cost $103 million to make, well done. They did a good job getting excellent bang for their buck. It's not the best visual effects I've ever seen, but the movie felt grand in scope. It didn't feel limited by a budget. They did a pretty good job on that for $103 million. So it's going to end up being profitable. Now, that ended the debate. We talked about this last Friday. What's going to be bigger, Wicked or, Gladiator? Clearly, Wicked was much better. But one of the things that we knew, too, was that Gladiator might play better overseas than Wicked will, right? Wicked is more of a Western kind of thing, UK, the States, all that kind of stuff, because of the stage play. Well, there are some people who are missing some important facts here that are looking at it kind of weird. Like, for instance, if we look at Wicked, 114 million opening weekend. Now, worldwide, it's at 164 million. If you look at Gladiator 2, it made 55 million opening weekend, but it has $221 million opening weekend. 164 for Wicked, 221 for Gladiator. So there's already been some people going, oh my God, Gladiator is doing better than Wicked. Okay, Slow your roll. There's two important things you need to understand. Number one, Gladiator opened in many places around the world like a week or two ago. So that 221 million, or the 165 internationally that it's made, that doesn't just represent this weekend. That represents 1 and in some cases 2 weeks of playing in international markets. So don't get too excited about that 165 overseas numbers, because those are numbers that weren't just from the weekend. That's like 1 and in some cases 2 weeks in advance. The second thing you need to keep in mind when we look at this number. So again, the international number here on Gladiator was 165, international 50 million for Wicked, is that is only from this weekend, but also Gladiator is literally playing in twice as many countries as Wicked is right now. For example, one of the biggest international markets for Gladiator 2 was France, where it made $10 million. Wicked hasn't even opened in France yet. One of the other big markets for Gladiator was the UK. Wicked hasn't opened in the UK, at least not wide in the UK. It played a couple of screens, but that's it. Hasn't played wide there. So yes, Gladiator's doing well. Listen, again, I want to remind everybody, look at this number again. $221 million this movie's made so far on a $103 million budget. It hasn't broken even yet, but it will. This movie is going to be profitable. And and today that's all you can ask for. Wicked, I don't know how big the movie will ultimately end up being. It's really going to depend. Like once it rolls out to all the international markets and then we see how it does. Obviously, domestically, it's already doing great. How well it'll do overseas? Don't know. We'll have to see. But again, it's always good seeing a movie that is great. And Wicked is great. It was better than I expected it to be good. I didn't expect it to be this good. It's going to get nominated for Best Picture. I feel pretty confident saying it's going to get nominated for Best Picture. It's going to get nominated for a whole bunch of Oscars, as a matter of fact. But it's always nice to see when a great movie gets rewarded and does well at the box office. And again, third biggest box office opening of the year so far. Will it still have that once Moana 2 opens next week? I don't know. We'll find out. But still, not bad at all for Wicked. So pretty impressed with it. Big numbers for them. All right. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Wicked absolutely dominated. Came out third biggest opening of the year, biggest Broadway transition opening ever in history as well, and several other records. Did you expect it to beat Gladiator by that much? Listen, guys, don't start pretending like for the last year and a half, I haven't had all of you guys telling me how nobody was going to go see Wicked. I felt like we had to deal with that almost on a weekly basis. But anyway, what's the biggest surprise you hear? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still have several other topics to talk about, including it sounds like they're getting ready to kind of close up the Ahsoka series. Also, Spider-Man director John Watts, he's saying, yeah, Wolves 2, the movie he did with Brad Pitt and George Clooney, he did Wolves, said, yeah, Wolves 2 wasn't canceled by Amazon. I canceled it because Apple's not a good creative partner. Woo! We're going to talk about that and the box office projections for Kraven the Hunter are out, and they do not look good. We're going to talk about those things and a few things more, but before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Mando. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mando. Thank goodness it is football season. It's time for tailgates, touchdowns, and Sunday cookouts with the crew. But unfortunately, along with the drinks and the food, sometimes you also bring along your odor. And that is why Mando whole body deodorant should be an absolute tailgate game day essential. And that's why Mando's the MVP. It's clinically proven 72-hour odor control, so it's perfect for long days at the game or at the bar. I'm loving the Clover Wood scent, but they've got options like bourbon leather, leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, and even unscented if you prefer to go stealth mode. I like to use it after the shower, before the gym, or even important meetings. It's that reliable. And right now, Mando's got a killer deal. New customers get $5 off their best-selling starter pack with my exclusive code Campea. That's over 40% off. Just go to Shop Mando, that's ShopMando.com, and use the code Campea. Seriously, guys, if you want a deodorant that's aluminum-free, baking soda-free, and just works better than anything else you've tried, it's time to make the switch to Mando. So don't wait. Control body odor anywhere with Mando. Head over to shopmando.com and use the code Campea and get $5 off your starter pack. Trust me, you're going to love it. That's at shopmando.com. Go and check it out now. And thank you to our friends at Mando for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. By the way, quick correction. Remember I said I was shocked when Jonathan told me that the budget was $103 million for Gladiator 2? I'm like, holy crap. Well, there's a reason I was shocked, because it wasn't. Turns out the $103 million was the budget for the first Gladiator. Yeah. The second Gladiator is considerably more expensive at $250 million. So we double checked that. So just so you know about that. Everything else is still true about Wicked though. But yes, just had to clear that up, that the $103 million was for the first Gladiator, $250 was for the second. Anyway. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this. So Ahsoka is a series that I did not think was very good. I put it on the same level as Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Not terrible. Both had some good episodes and a lot of some very weird decisions and stuff like that. And if I had $1 for every time in Ahsoka we saw Ahsoka do this, I would be a very rich man. If you guys haven't seen the honest trailers for the Ahsoka series, it was actually pretty funny. Anyway, Arm Crossing, the series. But, again, I put it about on the same level as Obi-Wan. Now, the great thing about the Ahsoka series was that its opening episode had some pretty good numbers, much like Obi-Wan's opening numbers did. Unfortunately, for it and a lot of other Lucasfilm shows and Disney Plus shows, despite big numbers in the opening, the numbers started to drop as it went down. And ultimately, the series wasn't that good. Now, they've been talking about doing a second season. And again, I think the only reason they're even looking at giving it a second season is because Ahsoka is Dave Filoni's pet project. Kind of like how when John Lasseter was still at Pixar, Cars was his pet project.
Right.
But Ahsoka, for whatever reason, is Dave Filoni's favorite pet. Of all of his characters that he's created and all of his pet characters that he's created, Ahsoka is his favorite pet. So seeing as he's the chief creative officer there now, if he wants to get a second one, they'll probably do a second one. But it's sounding like, while they're still saying they're going to do a season 2, that's probably going to be it. That's as much leeway as they're going to give him. The folks over at The Direct wrote the following, as I get down to it here. It says this. Where'd it go? I lost it.
Oh, no.
Let's just pick it from here. Where'd it go? I'll just pick it up from the beginning because I lost my spot. Ahsoka Disney Plus story may be wrapping up sooner than expected, says Direct. According to Scooper Daniel Richtman, Lucasfilm is planning a fitting conclusion for Ahsoka Season 2 in case it isn't renewed for a third season. If so, Star Wars fans should expect answers and reunions in the Season 2 finale instead of further cliffhangers and surprises. It's still important to note that Star Wars hasn't canceled Ahsoka yet, as a Season 3 is possible. All right. I'm going to go out on record and say this. I still don't think Season 2 is going to happen. I think that it's all well and good that maybe Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni want to do Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
I still think there's a chance. By the way, I have no insider information on this. This is just me as a random fan speculating, okay? Just be clear, random fan speculating. But my random fan speculation is that I don't know if Bob Iger's going to let him do it.
Yeah, we had speculation there was going to be an Obi-Wan Season 2 as well.
Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way. It's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think when you look at what it costs to make versus the returns, the fact that it had declining viewership, all that kind of stuff, I think there's going to be a small and very vocal, loyal fan base that will probably want it. But guys, there's also a massive online petition to get an Acolyte season 2.
I know.
Who in their right mind wants an Acolyte season 2? Actually, you know what? All art is subjective. If you liked Acolyte, good on you. I did not, but if you did, that's fine. I'm just saying, I still think there's a very good shot here that season 2 doesn't even happen. Again, no insider information, just a random nobody fan with some random nobody speculation on my part. But if it does, it sounds like they've already given them the word, okay, we'll let you do one more. We'll let you do one more. So tie it up. Don't leave it open-ended. Don't do any of this kind of stuff. But again, you know, and I'm a little bit surprised by it because Obi-Wan had bigger numbers. And it seems like chat of an Obi-Wan season 2 have kind of quietly gone away.
Yeah.
You don't really hear any speculation about an Obi-Wan season 2 coming out either. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if they do it, they do it. You know, it's funny because the Ahsoka character is a character that for a long time I completely hated.
Right.
And then the Rebels series came along,
Loved
and I
her in
thought
Rebels.
I loved her in Rebels. I
Yeah.
thought they did such a great job with the
Because
Ahsoka.
they got rid of the whole Sky Guy thing, and I don't know.
But even as she got older in the Rebels series, I found her annoying as fuck, to be honest with you. But when they started using her in Rebels, which is also a Dave Filoni show, I really liked the way they used the character. And then when Rosario Dawson popped up,
Right.
playing her in Mandalorian,
When she popped up on that, oh dude, I love that scene.
I'm
in
like,
the
you know
forest.
what? I'm on board.
Yeah.
This is great. I loved her in that. And again, I didn't hate the Acolyte or the Ahsoka series. I thought it had its moments. I thought it had some good. I mean, obviously Ray Stevenson.
Sure.
Ray Stevenson stole that show. It's so sad.
Unfortunately they had some Obi-Wan moments though, where it was like, that doesn't make any sense. You're just gonna let them on your starship?
Yeah, I don't even get me. The logic holes in the Ahsoka series.
Ugh,
Oh my God, don't even get me going. I mean,
was
they
just
weren't
like
as
with-
bad as the Acolyte.
No, but it was Obi-Wan level where it's like, oh well, just have the girl hide in my trench coat and we'll walk through this TIE fighter bay.
Don't even get me going on that. So look, I think this. Like I said, I think there's a small and very vocal and very passionate and very loyal fan base for the Ahsoka series. And I hope for their sake that this does get done. I don't think it will, but I hope it gets done. And if they do, I hope they can bring it to a nice closing conclusion and all that kind of stuff. Who knows? Maybe, I mean, no, I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
I will say,
I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
I'll put up a bit of a like alternate like argument. This would be a good test of the new regime going forward out of the paycheck era and show running it and looking at quality over quantity. This could be a telltale thing of like, this is no longer your like Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Acolyte. This is like, this season 2 is a step up. So if they do it, it would be proof that the new regime is working.
See, my thing is this. I think if they do it, it's only going to be in deference to Dave Filoni. Honestly, I don't think there's any other logical reason to do a season 2 other than it's Dave Filoni's and he wants to do it. Like, honestly. And listen, if they can get back on track, and if they can like capture in Ahsoka season 2 some of what they had in Mandalorian and Rebels and stuff like that, if they can do that, then it could be, listen, there's the potential there for an Ahsoka series, notwithstanding season 1. But there is potential there for an Ahsoka series to be really good if they just do it much better than they did in season 1. There's potential there. There's some really good potential. So let's see what happens. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Reports are going out there right now that they're going to be prepping Ahsoka season 2. I don't even think it's going to happen, but they're saying it is, that they're prepping it to be a final conclusion. Whatever you guys think about that, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, Apple, when in the world of entertainment, Apple is killing it in many areas. Right? They've got some of the best shows on TV. Severance is coming back here soon. Shrinking is one of the best things on TV. Silo is running again. I mean, they've got so much good stuff on Apple TV Plus. And they've gotten into the movie production business. But filmmakers are starting to grumble that they're not having a great time with them. You guys remember the director of Roadhouse, Doug Liman, got very publicly upset with Apple because they said, like, hey, we had a deal. This was supposed to be theatrical and you guys pulled it and all this kind of stuff and all the brouhaha there. Well, now add another big director who's saying he's not going to work with Apple again.
Ooh.
John Watts, the director of Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Spider-Man Far From Home. And by the way, the showrunner of the awesome-looking upcoming Star Wars series, Skeleton Crew, which I think that looks so delightful. He, of course, just recently directed a film for Apple called Wolves with George Clooney and Brad Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of you remember that shortly before it was supposed to come out, they pulled the plug on it. They pulled the plug on it and said, no, we're just going to put it direct to Apple TV. And then there was an announcement that they were going to do a Wolves 2. And then Apple announced that they were going to cancel Wolves 2. Well, John Watts is now coming out, the director of Wolves, and saying, nah, you didn't cancel Wolves 2. I canceled Wolves 2. This comes to us from The Verge, that wrote the following. Similarly, Wolves became by far the most viewed feature film ever released on Apple TV Plus, as Deadline writes. But Watts was unhappy with the experience, telling the outlet he was completely shocked by Apple's last-minute shift from a wide theatrical release and asked the company not to announce that he was writing a sequel. This is John Watts' quote now. He said this: "They ignored my request and announced it in their press release anyway, like telling the world, oh, John Watts is directing a Wolves 2, even though John Watts asked them not to do that. They ignored my request and announced it in their press release anyway, seemingly to create a positive spin on their streaming pivot. And so I quietly returned the money they gave me for the sequel. I didn't want to talk about it because I was proud of the film and I didn't want to generate any unnecessary negative press, unlike Doug Liman. I loved working with Brad and George and Amy and Austin and Porna and Zalko and would happily do it again. But the truth is that Apple didn't cancel the Wolf sequel. I did, because I no longer trusted Apple as a creative partner. Apple didn't cancel Wolves 2. I did. And the reason I did is because Apple is not a trusted creative partner. That's a subdued but damning statement. And it also shows some pretty dirty pool on Apple's part. Like, he literally asked you guys, don't tell the world that I'm writing a Wolves thing. I'm not going to do a Wolves sequel. But just to make Wolves look even better, say, we've already greenlit a sequel. He's writing a second one right now. And it turns out that wasn't true. That the guy had already told them he wasn't doing it and told them not to announce that, but they didn't anyway. And by the way, fair play to John Watts. That instead of, listen, and I'm not complaining about how Doug Liman, you handle your situation the way you want to handle. I'm not complaining about how Doug Liman managed the Roadhouse situation. But I'm just saying, good on John Watts that even though they burned him, he decided to stay quiet about it. He's like, look, I'm proud of the film. I didn't want to hurt the film. I didn't want to generate negative publicity. I didn't want to generate negative buzz. I just decided to stay quiet. But for the record, if they're going to go out to you don't tell the world you broke up with me. I broke up with you. So he stayed quiet until they started going and saying, oh, yes, we've decided to cancel Wolves 2. And John Watts is like, excuse me. No. You wanted Wolves 2. I said no. And let's make that clear. So I guess it seems that, they just kind of did him dirty and did this. Now, look, Apple had put out a couple of films. Like, it wasn't Children of the Flower Moon, Killers of the Flower Moon? I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That had a long run.
But it hurt them financially.
Well, it was a huge budget and it was a long movie.
Long, expensive movie, and
Yeah.
I think they lost money on that. I think they've also had some glitches. I mean, listen, the issue isn't theatrical. The issue is putting the right movies theatrical. Wolves would have made a little bit of money because it was a modestly budgeted film.
They only ran it, so it was very limited. In our area, it was only in Regal. No AMC, or I didn't see it anywhere else. And it was only like 2 weeks, and then it was gone. So, I mean, they didn't...
And it had a very minimal number of screens that it played on. It was supposed to get a wide theatrical release. That's what they promised the filmmaker. And then they pull... And listen, the movie belongs to them. You pay for it, you own it. I don't care if I have somebody, like the best car recommender in the world. Once I'm the one who buys the car, it ain't the car recommender's car. It's my car. I bought it. I paid for it. My money, my thing. I get it. It's Apple's movie. They can do whatever they want with it. But if you want to have a good relationship with the creatives, and Apple does have a lot of relationships with a lot of really big creatives right now, if you don't want to sour that reputation, you probably should think about, number one, honoring your commitments. But even if you need to break a commitment, do it above board.
Right.
Like, say, don't go out and tell the world that that director that you just burned is still writing our sequel when that director has already told you, don't tell that to people because I'm not doing it. This is a way to hurt your reputation with other talent. And don't forget, it's not just John Watts. It's John Watts' talent agency now. And John Watts' talent agency represents a lot of different people. And you just drop too many balls like this. At some point, like, remember, Netflix is starting to run into a little bit of a problem where a lot of creatives don't want to work with them anymore. Like, they made a bid for Margot Robbie's new project twice as much as the next closest bidder. But Margot Robbie and her team said no. They walked away from it because Netflix isn't good about, doing theatrical runs, and they didn't want to do it. And if that reputation starts to get ahead of them, they could run into some problems. I'm not saying that they will. Maybe they'll nip it in the bud, whatever. It sounds like they are going to give Greta Gerwig's Narnia movie a theatrical run in IMAX. So it sounds like they're addressing that problem. But if Apple's not careful, they could sour and poison their own name with a lot of creatives in the business. And that's where your money is. So they just better be careful about this. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this? John Watts has pulled a "you didn't fire me, I fired you" kind of thing out there, saying that he canceled Wolves 2 because he was promised a theatrical run. They just pulled it on him. He told them not to tell people that he was writing a second one. They did it anyway. I don't know. It seems pretty messy to me, and it doesn't cast Apple in a very good light. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? In the glorious world of victory after victory that is the Sony Spider-Verse, we, of course, have a big movie on the way out coming called Kraven the Hunter. Following the epic successes of Madam Web and Morbius and Venom 3, which, by the way, has quietly gone on to be profitable. Venom 3's gone on to be profitable. Crazy. But here comes Kraven.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how big of a disaster Morbius was, and it was. I don't care how big of a disaster Madam Web was, and it was. I kind of believe in Kraven. Because, number one, they've got a much better director, and they have a much better screenwriter than like Morbius or Madam Web did. And that's the most important thing. Who are the people behind it? Who are the people making it, right? And I don't care what anybody else says. I like the trailer for Kraven. I do. But is anybody going to go see it? That's a different question. Whether the movie's good or not, and whether the movie makes any money or not, those are two different questions. Now, I may have some belief that Kraven might turn out to be pretty okay. And I love Ricky Tikki-Taki playing the lead role.
He's
That's
the
great.
best.
Yeah.
Aaron Taylor Johnson in there. I mean, it's not any worse than G-Spot. So Aaron Taylor Johnson, I love him in the role. I love the casting, all that kind of stuff. You've got Academy Award winners in this movie. I think there is the potential there for it to be pretty good. Again, solid director, solid screenwriter, great cast. I believe in it. Now, it might turn out to be horrible. That's fine. But we've always known there's going to be a question about whether or not anybody's going to see it. Number one, nobody knows who Kraven the Hunter is. Outside of comic book fans, nobody knows who Kraven the Hunter is. And for people keeping score, hey, we went to go see Madam Web and it was terrible. And we went to go see Morbius and it's terrible. So how is Kraven going to do at the box office? Well, according to projections coming out of Box Office Pro, not good, Timmy. Not good at all. Screen Rant wrote the following. Per Box Office Pro, Kraven the Hunter is projected to make $20 to $25 million on its opening weekend. This figure is considerably lower than Morbius's $39 million domestic opening weekend. Kraven the Hunter also could match Madam Web's abysmal 6-day 25.8. By the way, it only made, I think Madam Web made much less than that on its opening weekend. Opening earnings, potentially making it one of the lowest grossing films in Marvel movie history. Now, just to remind everybody, Morbius opened with $39 million and worldwide went on to make $167 million. Madam Web had an official opening weekend of $15 million, and that is not a typo, folks. Madam Web worldwide grand total ended up making $100 million. Worldwide grand total. Now, I don't know, what is the production budget for, if you guys can look that up, the production budget for Kraven the Hunter.
Kraven? I'll look that up.
Yeah, for Kraven the Hunter. But an opening weekend of $20 million won't cut it.
Between 110 and 150.
Which is not a ridiculously expensive total for a box office for a comic book movie.
Wikipedia actually has it listed at 130.
All right,
that's
well,
right between
let's
there.
just say it's 130.
All right, let's say 130. That means, say about $40 million, because I don't see them marketing this movie a lot. So let's say, let's be a little more, let's say 50. So a $50 million marketing budget. Now you're talking about 180. This movie's going to need to make close to $300 million to break even. And if it opens like around $20 million,
it's never going to have the success of Morbius.
It's never going to have more. Now, look,
all relatively speaking.
Now, here's the thing. Let's look at this graphic again. Now, we're looking at these grand totals of 167 million and 100 million. These were both completely shitty movies. If Kraven's good, I'm not saying great, but if Kraven's good, it could make noticeable more than both of these.
Maybe.
But will it get 300 million?
I don't know, because I really do feel like this is where the DCEU was at. Blue Beetle opened at 25 million as well and went on to make 130.
And that was a pretty good movie.
And I think this is where audience are now. They're just like that. You're getting that amount of people that are coming out for a Sony Spider-less Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. I was kind of hoping that Venom 3 would be a better movie than it was.
And Blue Beetle was good. In
Yeah,
my opinion.
The problem was people had given up on the DCU.
That's
already,
what I mean.
right?
People have given up.
I was kind of hoping, going back a number of weeks, I was kind of hoping that Venom 3 would be really good. I love the first two Venom movies. I didn't like Venom 3. I was kind of hoping Venom 3 would be good enough that it would actually give some momentum for Kraven. I actually think it killed more of the momentum, despite the fact that Venom 3 is actually making okay money. I just don't see, it's the third of a franchise. Nobody knows who Kraven is. And this could be disastrous. Now, look, for me, the only thing that I'm really concerned about is it going to be good? And again, I don't think there's any reason to believe that it won't be. Again, you got, for instance, for a movie like Kraven, you got the guy who wrote the Denzel Washington Equalizer movies. That's a positive to me.
Especially for this kind of film.
Yeah, for this kind of
because
film.
This feels
yes.
like this does feel like a John Wick meets like this a Spider-Man type movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you got I don't think one of the great directors working today, but you got a solid director, the right screenwriter for something like this. That's the building blocks. Madam Web and Morbius had like the worst screenwriters on the planet doing it. They're literally the worst screenwriters. I'm sure they're wonderful human beings, but the literal worst screenwriters in the business wrote those two movies. That's not the case with Morbius, or not the case with Kraven, I should say. So I still believe there's a chance for this to be good, and that's all I care about. Now, I already saw prior to the show starting in our live chat, like people saying, well, maybe this will be the final coffin and Sony will give up the Spider license. Guys, stop. Stop it. They literally could lose $1 billion on Kraven, and they won't. Of course, the most they can lose is probably about 100 million. But they can lose $1 billion on Kraven. It does not matter. Sony is not ever giving up the Spider-Man license
No.
unless Marvel comes along and makes an offer unreasonably large.
Like
and they're
5
not going to do that either.
Like what would you say? Where would you put that? 5 to 8 billion? Like where it's just like, okay, for one character.
That's exactly where I'd put it. Somewhere in
Yeah.
the $5 to $8 billion range.
Yeah.
And it's simply not worth that to Marvel. That's just not worth it to Marvel.
Yeah.
And Marvel's doing quite fine. Guess what? Marvel and Sony are both doing quite fine under their current arrangement. Everybody's making money.
Yep.
Everybody's happy. And so Marvel is not going to, Sony ain't going to give it up for like $2 billion. They're going to want 4 or 5 or 6.
These are essentially just licensing films. They're just putting these out so they can keep the license for Spider-Man. And they've got the animated world. Spider-Verse is a success. So
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Let's not forget, Sony, in my opinion, Sony has made not 1, not 2, but the 3 best Spider-Man movies ever. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 3 best Spider-Man movies ever made, and they've all been made by Sony. So, like, I still have a lot of faith and belief in the animated stuff that they're doing. So there's that. And I know I'm still like, maybe I'm just being wildly naive. I'm still holding out hope that maybe they can knock this one out of the park like they did the first Venom. Because remember, the first Venom surprised everybody.
sure.
And maybe they can do that with Kraven. But either way, it's just not going to make a lot of money.
I think the problem with this movie is Venom. It had that little, I don't know, that little charm to it.
Sure, that's exactly.
As brutal as it was, this movie just feels like it's brutal. And probably one of the reasons why the marketing was so low. How can you show like anything that has to do with animals, like and market that, like especially if they're getting hurt? There could be a lot of things that happen in this film where they can't market it to the general audience, which is unfortunate because, you know, like if it's a good movie, then it's already starting behind. Like
I honestly don't think there's going to be a lot of animals in Kraven.
Yeah.
I
or
really don't.
just human brutality.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot
we
of human brutality,
We saw
yeah.
that trap. What they did
Oh,
with
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
trap. If this film is 1 hour and 30 minutes. Oh wait, it's actually the longest. You said the longest.
Like 2 hours and 29 minutes or something. I can't remember
crap.
exactly.
Yeah, but it's one of the long films. Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be gory.
Never mind. That took away my whole point.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, listen, I remember at CinemaCon back in April, like Aaron Taylor Johnson got up on screen and like said to the audience, people have been asking me, what's the movie rated? It's fucking rated R. And like they were very, very clear that this is going to be a very brutal movie. Like they're like, if nothing else, how good or how bad it's going to be, we don't know. But the one thing I feel very confident saying, and this is neither good nor bad, it's going to be brutally violent.
right.
And that's not necessarily a good thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That won't make the movie good or make the movie bad. I'm just saying that the one thing I think we can completely count on from everything they've been telling us was that it is going to be a brutally violent film.
And how do you think the general audience will react to this? We know he's involved with Spider-Man somehow, but if someone who doesn't know anything, you know, there's been no hints that he's in that universe from the trailers. Like someone who doesn't know anything about that and just watching it, I guess that maybe they're banking on just attracting people from the violence and the.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, you know what? It seems like, to your point, they've learned their lesson because in Madam Web, all that marketing was Spider-Man marketing. Look,
Yeah.
like even the guys climbing in the trees, they look like Spider-Man. Oh, that's Aunt May. Oh, that's blah blah. Like everything all the marketing made it feel like any minute Spider-Man's going to show up. To their credit, at least up until now, they've done none of that for Kraven. None of this misdirect. Oh, guys, if you like Spider-Man, maybe you should go to this movie. Like they've done none of that, and they've kept it totally separate. And I actually respect them. It might not be a good business decision,
Right.
but I actually respect them for it.
Do you think this will hurt Sony in the end by not trying to introduce these characters even just a little bit in the Spider-Man films before they, you know, monetary?
No, because
monetarily?
remember, Sony's not making Spider-Man films.
Oh,
That's
okay.
that's Marvel, right?
Oh, right.
So they can't
They signed
introduce
that deal,
yeah.
yeah.
They can't introduce a character in a Marvel MCU movie and then bring that character over into
Oh,
thing,
okay.
right?
And
So
they did try bring the opposite of that with Michael Keaton's
with
Vulture.
Morbius, right?
Yeah, and that didn't even help.
And that didn't help them either.
No.
Like, right? They like, look, guys, it's Morbius, and they showed all in all of Morbius's marketing. Look, he's walking down this alley with this big Spider-Man mural on the wall, and Spider-Man this and Spider-Man that, and that didn't help it.
But if they released a Morbius movie and a Vulture movie at the same time after No Way Home or Homecoming, Vulture would probably made more, but just because of that relation to Spider-Man, right?
Yeah,
Being
but
in that-
Sony couldn't make a Vulture movie.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to put in.
I know,
terms
it's just-
how important Spider-Man may
Look.
be to some films.
Here's the thing. There's going to be one of two stories that gets told coming out of Kraven. Either the story of yet another big flop failure, or the story of this is the movie that maybe could start to turn things around if it's good. I mean, look, no matter how good or bad Kraven is, it's not going to make much money.
Nope.
I think we all agree with that, right? It's not going to make much. It'll make more if it's good, but regardless, it's still not going to make a lot of money no matter what. But the question is going to be, will the movie be good? Because if the movie is good, then at least that's something you can work from when you're planning. Because as of right now, we don't have the next movie announced, right? If Kraven is at least good, then again, it's a starting point. It's something you can build off of to go into the next project. But
There's actually a story that just dropped like maybe a couple hours ago of the director actually pleading for people to actually give the movie a chance because of all the box office.
yeah, I mean, yeah, because it looks like not many people are going to go see it. And you know what? They're saying 20 to 25. I won't be surprised if the number's smaller. I'll be there, and I'll be
there.
happy to be there.
Oh, but it's long.
I'm looking forward to seeing this movie. I don't care. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The opening projections are lower than Morbius, almost maybe as low, depending if you go to the lower end, as Madam Web. Guys, whatever you think about this, jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, listen. With that down, it's time for us to get on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take another moment and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at The Perfect Gene. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, The Perfect Gene. So the colder season is here, and guess what? I am living in the perfect gene. These jeans are super stretchy, soft, and totally trick people into thinking I've got my life together. And I'm telling you this because I actually love them. These are absolutely, no questions asked, my favorite jeans that I have ever owned. And yes, the folks over at The Perfect Gene are paying me to say that, but it's still absolutely true. These are my favorite jeans ever. These jeans have enough stretch to accommodate Thanksgiving dinner and are comfy enough to wear all day watching Sunday football. Plus, even though they feel like sweatpants, they look good enough to be your go-to pants for date night. And listen, the Perfect Gene isn't even just pants. They've revolutionized t-shirts as well. The Perfect Tee has just enough stretch to hide that beer belly while accentuating your arms and chest for that flawless look. My guys, it's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectgene.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order, plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use the code CAMPEA at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectgene.nyc with the promo code CAMPEA. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the John Campea Show and tell them we sent you. F your khakis and get the Perfect Gene. And thank you to our friends at the Perfect Gene for sponsoring the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to your questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
We got Mike Halsey, who says, "Hi, John. On Friday, you were talking about Starlink, and I messaged to say for my home, I only pay 40 euros a month. You checked and said roaming unlimited is now 165, but in France, that's still just 72 a month for unlimited on their website. So there you go. It's a little cheaper there.
I don't know what the conversions are, something like that. And, you know, just because, I mean, I can't speak for what the prices are in other countries. I can only speak for what they are.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be under different regulations, different.
Exactly. But here, it's like 165 a month for roaming unlimited, which is, listen, it's a great service. And I can attest, I've used it. It's great. It works. Ann and I have gone camping in some pretty remote areas. And no matter where we are, slap out the dish. It's about this big. Just put it down on the ground, plug it in, boom, and we're streaming Netflix, and I'm able to work, and she's able to work, and it's wonderful. It's just a little bit pricey, and it's getting pricier because I think when I first signed up for it, it was like $130, and it jumped to 150. Now it's jumped to 165. Not that long ago, it was under $100. So I don't know how expensive it's going to be like a year from now. That's the problem with Starlink. All right, what's next?
We got Jedi Master Super Mario says, to clarify my comments about waiting to see Wicked until both parts released, I was unsure if the story was going to feel unsatisfying given its split between Act 1 and 2 of a stage play, but your review and others convinced me to give it a shot.
I mean, I think what you just brought up is a valid thing. I think movies that are going to be part of a series still need to make sure the individual films are satisfying cinematic experiences, right? Now, despite the fact that a lot of people complained about where Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring, there it is, Mr. Frodo, where we're going. Nee, 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 and credits roll. I still thought the film as a whole was a very satisfying experience, even though the ending left some people going, wait, what?
I was so pissed off. You don't understand. I had no idea. I love the time where the internet wasn't so involved with everything, where you just walked in and sometimes you saw a trailer. Those times I just reminisce about. It's like, I miss those times. But yeah, what he was saying about, oh, there's a part 2, I might just wait. I completely understand how you feel. I've been known to say those things too, or feel the same way. So it's not like you're wrong in thinking that way.
Yeah,
but
and
like John's
again,
saying, Wicked is good. You should go see it.
Yeah, it's just a very good movie.
The best format
and,
you could see it in the theaters.
And you know what? For part 1 of part 2, it's a great break point. Where this movie ends is actually a really great break point. But again, yeah, you're right. I mean, movies still need to make sure that their film that they're putting into theaters that people are paying to go to see, even if it's part of a series of films, still needs to feel like a good cinematic experience on its own. And it's important that they do that. And I can thankfully say that I think Wicked did a really good job of that. All right, what's next?
Suthia says, recently rewatched both Parasite and Cabin in the Woods, and I wanted to ask you guys which reveal caught you guys more off guard and hooked you further into the story. The basement reveal in the house or the basement reveal in the cabin?
Oh, man.
Cabin in the Woods.
I like that movie.
Cabin in the Woods?
Yeah, you didn't like it? The one with Thor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got a kick out of that movie for some reason.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't love it. I didn't love it. But by the way, that movie is a great example about like when people talk about, oh no, if you got to take your time with a screenplay, you got to take 5 years to write a screenplay.
Didn't he write it like in a hotel room or something like that?
Him and Joss Whedon and his co-writer, they literally wrote that movie in a weekend. They wrote it. I can't remember if they were at like a resort or a hotel or something like that. And they sat down, they decided to take a work, and they wrote the whole script in a week. I'm sure it got refined over time, but they literally cranked that one out. As far as Parasite goes, I mean, compared to Cabin in the Woods, which gets into the big supernatural and all that kind of stuff, I mean, it's not that surprising, but it is kind of Parasite's such a good movie, man. By the way, his next movie, coming out, Mickey was it 15? 17. Mickey 17.
Yep.
That looks so good. I cannot wait to watch that. All right, what's next?
Good writes, John and gang, Lin-Manuel Miranda just released a concept album, Warriors, that he is pitching for a Broadway production. He says he's watched it dozens of times, his favorite movie of all time. It's crazy. Cast tons of greats from Busta Rhymes to Mark Anthony. Yeah,
somebody wrote in about that the other day. I'll be honest, I love Lin-Manuel Miranda. I do. I've seen Hamilton like 4 times out of the theater. I don't care. I don't care about somebody doing a concept album. I really don't. I mean, listen, at some point, and I have friends of mine who were almost made a Warriors remake for the studio. But if this turns out to be something, we'll talk about it then. But otherwise, I'm just being honest with you. I think it's great if you care about it. I just don't personally care about it. That's all. All right, what's next?
Chef Lamb says, hey, John, have you seen this week people are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity and really holding space with that? I don't know what that means. Like they're doing their own versions of it, or what does that mean? Is Defying Gravity, is that in
That's
Wicked?
that's the big end song of Wicked.
So I wonder if people are like doing their own renditions.
Maybe, I guess.
They did
I don't
it-
really understand the question.
I know
to
they
be
did
honest
it
with
with Little Mermaid. So
you. Yeah. All right, what's next?
All right, Anonymous says not a spoiler, but all I will say is that Jeff Goldblum appears in Wicked earlier than we think. Just pay attention to the voices in the first song.
Yeah,
of the movie.
skip.
Yeah, thanks, Anonymous. You're never gonna
Yeah, you need to.
do one here
no,
again.
saying not a spoiler. Well, no, you kind of are. So just skip it. All right, what's next?
Nate Smith tips $20 and says, John, I wanted to thank you and the crew for everything. I lost my mom last week, and it's been really hard to stay upbeat and not depressed. Like you, my earliest memory was going to see Jedi in a theater with her. My love of movies started there. Thank you so much. Thank you, man.
First of all, so sorry to hear
Yeah.
about losing your mom. I can't even imagine. That's awful. And yeah, like my earliest childhood memory is my mom showing me Star Wars. That's my earliest memory. And one of the things I always talk about movies is like they're great shared experiences. I know exactly who I was with the first time I saw Lord of the Rings in theaters. I know exactly who I was with the first time I saw Batman in theaters. I know exactly who I was with the first time I saw Star Wars. And like one of the great things about movies is that those become living monuments for us. I've talked a lot on the show, like growing up, my best friend died a number of years ago, right before I started my YouTube channel. And one of the great things is that I saw the very first time I went to go see Batman in movie theaters was with him. And it's kind of great that now that whenever Michael Keaton's Batman comes up, it's just a great reminder to think of him. And the fact that we can have movies there like that, and particularly for you and your mom too, is really one of the great special things about film. So again, all of our best wishes to you, and thanks for sharing, man. We appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's next?
Lord Helmet says, with the success of Barbie and Oppenheimer and now Wicked and Gladiator 2, should studios and cinema chains bring back the double bill or create a modern equivalent to bring more people back to cinemas post-COVID?
Your question supposes
Yeah.
that
lot.
the reason the movies made money is because they opened on the same week.
It's just counter-programming, guys.
Yeah, it's just counter programmed. That's nothing new.
Yeah.
Like I remember the first. Now I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure. I think the first Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser opened, I think, on the same weekend as Phantom Menace. I might be
I'll
off
look that
on
up.
that,
I'll look it up.
but I think they did. Or something like anyway, there was a movie that opened against it that actually ended up
The
making
Mummy released on May 7th, 1999, where Phantom Menace.
It was May 19th. It was the following week.
Okay, so but something open. I remember that was close.
Yeah.
Something opened right against it that actually ended up making some good money because it was counter programming.
All right.
Like we said, there's just been too little of a sample size. Like, could Gladiator have made more than $55 million opening weekend if it wasn't opening against Wicked?
Yeah.
Probably.
Election came out the same week as The Mummy with Matthew Broderick, Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, I remember that one. But like, I don't think studios are going to. Now, what it does say though, is that opening two very different films from each other won't necessarily hurt you as bad as people used to think.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you try to open a Marvel and a DC movie on the same day, that's suicide because I mean, you're clearly you're then cannibalizing each other's audiences because you're both going for the same target audience. But movies like you couldn't get two different audiences than Wicked and Gladiator or Oppenheimer and Barbie. So I don't think the lesson here is if you open two big movies on the same day, they'll do great. I don't think that's the lesson. I think the lesson is you don't necessarily have to shy away from opening against another big movie if it's a radically different movie than yours. And I think that's really more of the takeaway for them.
Did The Matrix actually release with the Phantom Menace? I'm looking up.
May 19th.
Oh, May 19th. Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, no. It opened.
Same year though.
Yeah. Okay,
Same year.
Never mind.
That's
Sorry.
All right,
May.
what's next?
Wesley Cunningham says, how likely is it the How to Train Your Dragon animated originals will be re-released before the live action? Wasn't interested when first in theaters, but heard a ton of praise since. I know John hates 3D, but I'm into it, and I heard that was done really well too.
Yeah.
I never saw any of those in 3D, but
Now
they're great movies.
3D is, as my father would say, 3D is as useless as tits on a bull. So I think the chances are very good. I mean, I think it would probably be a very good move on the studio's part. Like in the month, maybe a month before How to Train Your Dragon, the live action movie comes out, do a limited re-release of the things. It just builds good buzz for the movie, gives us a chance to go to see those wonderful films on the screen again. I think there's a really good chance they do that, actually. All right, what's next?
Often Lonely Being Right says, "What's up, guys? I finally started watching Lioness with Zoe Saldana. Amazing. Season 2, episode 2 features a dramatic scene with a bunch of Marines screaming at the top of their lungs, perfectly capturing the real-life environment. Wow. Has anyone seen it? Bring on the filthy." I haven't started that yet.
I have also not started it. But there's a lot of billboards around the LA area for it. And as the season 2 came out, I was like, man, I got to get around to watching season 1. Because I have not talked to a single person that did not like Lioness. And I'm a big Zoe Saldana fan. So I have not started watching it, but fortunately they're only on season 2, so I won't have a lot to get caught up on. But I will get caught up on it soon enough. All right, what's next?
Benji Worldwide says, "I've been rewatching Arcane season 1 to recap before starting season 2, and it made me realize how much the studio writer's animation style would complement a Final Fantasy series. Arcane is so much like Final Fantasy 9 already that I can see it going hand in hand. Man, I'd love it."
Maybe. I mean, of course, Arcane had its finale last night. I think I might have mentioned, I didn't love the finale. I think my big problem with it was the deeper we got into season 2, the less and less it became about Vi and Jinx. And like when you go back to season 1, so after I watched the finale of season 2, last night I went back and watched episode 1 of season 1 again. And I prefer that show, where the show was primarily about Vi and Jinx, and I always mispronounce the name of the city, the fictional city, Pitlover or Pitover? Ricky Tiki Taki City.
There you go.
Pitover or something like
Nailed
that.
it.
And
G-Spot
like
City.
the two caste system in this city, where you had the affluent who lived in the upper part of the city and the more unfortunate who lived in the lower part of the city, and almost the class war that was brewing between them, and the history behind that with people like the main guys, like the parental figure for Jinx and like how that all got started, and seeds of rebellion, and with a little hints of this thing called, Hex Tech mixed in there as a part of it. And you had some great supporting characters like Jace and Caitlyn, and you had these supporting characters, and it created a really, really rich world. My problem with season 2, and I liked most of it, actually I loved most of it, but is that as we started going through season 2, the show became less and less about Vi and Jinx. It became less and less about that caste system, that real grounded kind of narrative about the battle of the classes and all that kind of stuff. And it became more of a fantasy idea dealing with the arcane and hex tech, and it became more about Jace than anybody, Jace and Victor. And then even in the big final climactic battle, and the big final resolution of the show really had nothing to do with Vi and Jinx. It had everything to do with Victor and Jace. And I found that the more and more that the show moved away from those foundational narrative principles that was set up in season 1, it kind of lost me a little bit. Again, I still really enjoyed the second season. Big thumbs up from me. I love this series. Just didn't completely love the way they kind of finished it all off. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Cliff Booth says, "My girlfriend and I went to Regal's early screening of Wicked at 7 p.m. We visit the theater weekly, and they've always shown 20 to 25 minutes of trailers and ads. We were shocked when we walked in at 7:10, and we had missed 10 minutes of the movie. Disappointing."
This is one of the most despicable bullshit things that movie theaters do, especially AMC theaters, where it's bad enough. See, this is where the thing, like, it's bad enough that they show like 25 to 30 minutes of trailers. And then everybody gives the same wussy little bullshit answer. Well, John, then just show up 25 minutes after the movie says it's going to start. You can't. You know why? Because every once in a while, AMC will fuck with you because they know that we start thinking that, but they want you in the seats to watch the trailers. So what they now do is, and I had the same experience with Wicked, that we walked into theater just because we happened to be early. So we walked into the theater 10 minutes after the movie was supposed to start, expecting we're about to watch 20 more minutes of trailers. Oh, and like 2 minutes after we got in there, they started the movie. And I have now had 5 or 6 situations where I've gone into a movie, because you guys know I go to lots of movies, but 5 or 6 times now I've gone into a movie where there still should be plenty of time for the trailers, and I've missed the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie because they decided to fuck with you. Say, I know we normally don't start the movie till like 30 minutes after showtime, but this time we're going to do it 14 minutes after showtime. So you better start coming early and sit down and watch our trailers.
Well,
fuck you.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to do this fucking bullshit, be consistent with it. Fuck you. It totally drives me nuts. So like, yeah, listen, I could manage it a little bit better if it was just consistent. Hey, if it says 7:30, that means 8:55. If it says 7, that means 7:30. And if they were consistent with that, so we knew when to be there, so we don't have to sit through fucking 30 minutes of commercials to watch a movie. We know if we walk into the theater at this time, that's when my movie will start. That's fine. But the fact that they pull this manipulative fucking bullshit where there's like, oh, if you do that, you're rolling the dice because you might miss some of the movie. Fuck you. It's completely infuriating. Anyway, sorry.
Apparently, I think Regal, because Chris said they weren't playing the trailer either, and she's in a different area, I'm assuming. So apparently Regal is just not playing any trailers before Wicked, which is really unlike them. Then it should always say, like, no trailers or trailer free, so that you know.
Listen, I honestly think I will go back to I think this year I'm going to make this a big deal. I honestly think there should be a rule that all movie theaters should abide by. And it's simple, and it will make everybody happy. Advertise the 2 times. Say, showtime 7 p.m., movie starts 7:20. Showtime 8:30 p.m. Movie starts 8:55. If you actually just advertise to the audience when the presentation starts, that includes your trailers, but also tell the audience, be open and fucking honest with the audience, and just tell the audience why the fuck can't you just tell the audience when the movie starts? Why can't you do that? Just tell the audience when the movie starts. Say, presentation starts at 7, movie starts at 7:28. If they did that, then it keeps everybody happy. You can show 5 hours of trailers if you want. Just tell the audience when the movie starts. And I honestly think there should be a law, because movie theaters are literally stealing consumers' time because they pay to be in those movie theaters. Look, I get ads are fine if you're getting free content, right? People watching my YouTube video. It's free to watch my YouTube video. So people who watch my show understand, yeah, there's going to be some ads because it's a free show. It's free, right? That's fine. You want to let us into the movie theaters for free. Show us all the trailers you goddamn want. But if you're paying 15 to 20 bucks to be in there, you should not be allowed to steal consumers' time. And I honestly think it should be a law that says, hey, movie theaters, you got to start advertising when the movie actually starts because people are paying you for this experience. Anyway, sorry. I go off on this way too often, I know, but it's a real big... You just got to understand, I love the movie theater experience. I'm passionately love the movie theater experience. And so when they do something that not only fucks consumers over, but is ruining their own business, it really upsets me. Anyway, that's that. All right, what's next?
Christian with 2 A's says, Snow White trailer was horrible. The CGI of the animals looked fake compared to the Lion King CGI. Why wouldn't they adapt that quality? And the dwarves, OMG, is there a reason why they wouldn't use real actors like Hugh Grant in Wonka?
I 100% fucking disagree with you. I thought it looked really good. And I think it was a really good decision. Guess what? They've made Snow White adaptations with real live actors, and it hasn't worked. The dwarves are these mythological creatures. The dwarves of Snow White are mythological creatures. And I thought they looked great in a mythological way. Like, listen, Snow White may be the worst movie of all time. I'm not sitting here telling anybody that Snow White's going to be a good movie. But my job is to be honest. And so I don't care how popular or unpopular my opinion is. I thought the trailer looked really good. Again, I've seen lots of good trailers to movies that I hated, and that this might be the next one. But I thought the trailer looked quite good. I think a lot of people just think it's the cool thing to say it didn't look good. I'm sure there's a lot of people that they honestly didn't think, and you're probably one of them. You just looked at it, didn't work for you. That's totally fair. I thought it looked good. I really do. And I'm kind of excited to check it out, even though whether it'll be good or not, we'll have to see. I've got my doubts. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety says Ariana Grande is pretty funny on SNL recently. Not calling that real acting, just saying that she was fun on the show. Good comic timing.
She did do a good job. And you're right. Being on SNL is not acting. Okay, it's not real acting.
That's a performer.
But she was quite good on it. Give her, again, I don't want to create the misconception that I'm an Ariana Grande fan. I'm not. I think she's a great singer. Her songs aren't for me. I'm not a fan of her material, but she is a great vocalist. But man, she impressed me in Wicked. I was honestly very pleasantly surprised by her in Wicked. To the point that I've gone from not really being an Ariana Grande fan to now I'm really curious to see her in another movie to see how she does. And a lot of people point out, well, John, she was in Don't Look Up. That wasn't a real role. She literally sang a song. But I am now very curious to see her do more stuff. All right, what's next?
Raymond says, I saw Wicked at a screening with families. No singing, but folks clapped and wooed after the big numbers like in Broadway.
Nothing wrong with that.
Now, they did that when I saw Moulin Rouge years and years ago, too. Maybe the subtitles and the bouncing ball are still being made for the sing-along version. I don't think it'll have that, but I think it'll just be like allowed.
Yeah, it's going to be really loud. By the way, I agree. I like the fact that at least in my screening of Wicked, they had this thing saying, don't sing along with the movie, okay? Because I agree with that. But I love audiences getting into a movie. Whether it's a big comic book movie where a big moment happened and the audience roars and cheers, or if there's an end, like this happened in my theater, like a big song number would end in Wicked and a lot of people in the audience would cheer when the thing. I love enthusiastic audiences, right? I mean, listen, if it wasn't for the enthusiasm of the audience, I would never go to a football game. Because if everybody's just going to sit there quiet when something exciting is happening, like you love being at the game because you get caught up in the energy of the audience as well. And I like that in movie theaters. I like that. So don't sing along, but yeah, absolutely cheer or woo or whatever at the end. I like that personally.
Yeah, I don't quite understand either, because even if you're a fan of the, there's no way people are going to the Broadway musical and singing along. There's just no way.
Oh no, it would never be allowed.
No,
never be allowed. All right, what's next?
Full Boyle says, do you know why so many people use headsets when recording podcasts? Your show seems to be working just fine without them.
Well, there's two very distinct times. One, when you're bringing in a remote guest.
Yeah.
If you're bringing in a remote guest, you really should be wearing headphones because you got to hear the other person. And, otherwise they're coming through speakers and that gets looped through microphones and all that kind of stuff. Now, I have never understood why podcasts or YouTube shows where there's not a remote guest
or pre-recorded drives me nuts.
Why they're all wearing headphones.
Yeah.
I've never understood that. Like I used to do some stuff with, what were they called? What was the name of the network that they did all the TV after shows? AfterBuzz.
AfterBuzz, yeah.
I used to, some friends of mine used to run that AfterBuzz thing there. Maria Menounos was one of them. And I used to do some stuff over there too. And they were not talking to any remote guests and everybody would always be wearing headphones. I'm like, why are you wearing headphones?
Maybe it's a focus thing to keep them focused on the conversation. Maybe bothered by the outside noise.
But there is no outside. That's the thing. You're in a studio.
Oh, okay.
You're in a studio. There's no outside noise.
Oh.
And so, well, so you can hear yourself properly. I can hear myself properly just fine. The only time I think there's a legit reason to be wearing headphones when you're not bringing in a remote guest is if you have an off-camera producer feeding you information.
Right.
That makes sense.
Or if you were born with them.
Like they just came out on your head.
Born with headphones on. Totally cool. No, like, so if we had like an off-camera producer
Sure.
who was looking up facts and feeding me facts through the headphones, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with that for shows that do that. I think that's great. If then that would make sense to wear headphones. But other than that, I'm not going to name names, but I had a friend of mine who would do shows and like constantly was wearing the headphones and would have anybody had on the show with him. And I'm like, why are you wearing the headphones? I don't know if they think it makes it look more pro. Maybe that's it for some people. They think it makes it look more pro. Maybe that's the thing. It's an aesthetic. I don't know. Anyway, all right. What's next?
All right, more headphone talk. Just kidding. Anonymous says, just witnessed master class of acting by Mark Rylance. You could see the depth of pain in his eyes. Wolf Hall has to be one of BBC's best shows. And then you have Damian Lewis being a total shit. Claire Foy as Anne Boleyn. Every student actor should study it. Yeah, I want to see Wolf Hall.
I've heard, we've had other people write into the show before about Wolf Hall and say it was really good. Mark Rylance is an underappreciated treasure.
He's great.
He is so good. But yeah, I've never actually watched that one myself. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got good Canadian kid here says, hey, John, I know Dune 2 is your movie of the year. I've watched the show all year, and I would say Wicked got your second most positive review. Is Wicked your number 2 film? Thanks for taking my question. Going to leave and wait for your answer at KFC.
Go to Jollibee's instead.
There you go.
No, I wouldn't say it's my second favorite. Let me pull up. I can never remember which movies have even come out this year. Let me pull up a list of movies that have come out this year. Okay, so my favorite is Dune 2. That's not only my favorite of the year, it's my favorite of like the last 10 years. I think my second favorite is probably Deadpool and Wolverine. My third might be... my third would probably be Inside Out 2. Then Wicked would probably be in the 4, 5, or 6 spot. I don't keep a list on me, right? Like I usually put my list together near the end of the year. So no, I wouldn't say Wicked is my second favorite, but in the 4, 5, or 6 spot is probably where it would be for me right now. But by the way, there's a couple of films, like great films, that because of where I live, I didn't get a chance to see them yet. That will probably go up ahead of those a little bit. Like I'll catch up on those films once we get into December. But for right now, I'd say Wicked is probably my 4th, 5th, or 6th favorite of the year. All right, what's next?
TJ Perry says, has anyone watched the franchise on HBO? The satire of making comic book movies. Genuinely do not remember the last show to make me laugh out loud this often. Cannot recommend it enough, especially for the John Campea Show audience. I haven't seen it. I've heard mixed reviews.
I've heard mixed reviews would be kind. I've heard not so good reviews about it. And so I never bothered with it. Even though I was really excited about it when they first announced it, I thought the concept was great, but I thought the trailers were terrible. Like they didn't look funny at all to me. And then I heard a bunch of people I know talking about who got to see it, and they were like, nah, it's not very good. So, I mean, you're the first person to write into me to say that you really liked it.
Yeah.
And I hope you're right, but I'm going to need to hear from some more people saying that too before I check it out, because I've got other things I need, like Lioness. I need to get caught up on Lioness. So, no, I haven't seen it yet myself, but I'm glad you liked it, man, because you're the first person I've heard to say that they did. All right, what's next?
Okay, Harvest K says, Wicked is terrific. Great chemistry between the two leads, and the musical numbers come on like gangbusters. But how can such a colorful movie look so drab and muted? If there was one movie that should scream Technicolor, this would have been it.
I don't know what you're talking about. I thought it looked pretty vibrant.
Yeah.
Particularly like when you're in Munchkinland and Glinda is in there, and like, yeah, there's nighttime. There's a number of nighttime scenes and nighttime shots. Yeah, sure. But everything else to me, I thought looked like, whether you're talking about Elphaba's childhood or the stuff in Munchkinland or once they go to Oz, I mean, for me, I thought it looked pretty vibrant myself, but that's just me. That was my experience with it. Maybe you saw it in one of those theaters that didn't project it properly. I mean, that's positive. Jonathan, I know you were talking about that before.
Yeah, I was wondering maybe like, because sometimes theaters cut costs by dimming their projectors, and it's really a cheap trick, but you could have had a dimmed projector. which would give it that.
Yeah. So, but again, all I can speak for is my experience that I had in my particular theater, and mine was that it looked plenty colorful to me. But that's just me. All right, what's next?
Okay, Anonymous says, I mean this with the utmost respect, but the animal subplot in Wicked is integral to the story as a whole. It's what directly instigates Elphaba turning against the wizard. Without, there's no motivation for her.
No, pointless. Totally pointless. Because you could have inserted any subplot that moves her from A to B to do there. It was not good. It was not good. Like, you could have said shoe odor was the issue. Shoe odor is what made Elphaba want to meet the wizard, only to find out that the wizard is behind the shoe odor. I mean, yeah, that becomes integral, but it doesn't mean it's good. And the way they presented it in the movie, it didn't come across remotely interesting. It was just a MacGuffin. It was just a plot device. It was a required plot device, but it was a plot device nonetheless, and it was not interesting to me. It didn't really make much sense to me. They never did anything else in the movie that made you feel that in the world. So you can say it's integral, but really it's insert plot device A. This is the thing that's going to make her want to go to the wizard. Okay, it's integral, but it doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it was interesting, and it doesn't mean it couldn't have been easily replaced by another subplot mechanic that would make her want to go there, right? You just needed something to make her want to go there, and what they chose and how they executed it. And listen, maybe it played out much better on the stage play. Like, maybe if I was watching the stage play, which I've never seen, admittedly, maybe that whole animal subplot plays a lot better. But I'm just being honest, as somebody who just watched the movie in and of itself, I didn't think that subplot worked very. It doesn't matter if it was important. It wasn't very good. And they could have replaced it with something else. Anyway, that was just my quick take on it. All right, what's next?
DJ Infa says, just to follow on Kobe and Jordan comment, I know Kobe is not the GOAT, not in the GOAT debate. But pros do say Kobe not only copied MJ's moves, but did improve on them from an efficiency level. But the main thing is that you do love Pines Kirk as much as I do.
What are we talking about? Oh, Chris Pines.
Yeah.
Chris Pines Kirk. Yeah, I thought Chris Pines Kirk was really good. I thought Chris Pines Kirk was really, really good.
Well, even Rob, who does not like the Kelvin universe, has always said that the actors were great.
Yeah, and the actors were really good. Yeah. And I happen to like those ones. I mean, yeah, the second one was a little weak, but I like the other ones. Again, the Kobe thing, I don't think Kobe copied Michael. I think Kobe, any more than, listen, basketball is about a bunch of fundamentals and you throw in some flair. And some people are better than others. And Kobe just happened to be one of the best of his generation to do it. And he happened to be right after Michael. So, but I thought their style of play was very different from each other, to be honest with you, that I would never compare Kobe. I mean, compare them in terms of, hey, they're a couple of the all-time greats, but I would never compare Kobe as far as that to Michael. Michael was...
You want to win a championship, you get Michael on your team. You want to win a one-on-one game, you pick Kobe.
I don't know about that either.
I totally always believe that.
Have you listened to some stories about the NBA players talking about people challenging Michael Jordan to one-on-ones?
I'm just saying my personal belief is that Kobe would freaking dominate one-on-one.
I don't know. I don't know about that. But I remember there's this one great story. There's this great story. You should look it up. It's on YouTube. You can see the NBA players talking about this. This is a real story. So after Michael Jordan retired, the Bulls... There was this I can't remember the name. There's this hot upcoming rookie on the Bulls who was doing really well. And he made a comment to the press that he thinks he would be a better one-on-one player than Michael Jordan. Now, this is after Jordan retired. Fast forward a month or two when training camp's going on. And the Bulls are all in the practice gym playing. And they're getting ready to finish up the practice. And a gym door at the far end of the gym opens up. And in comes walking Michael Jordan, just in shoes, shorts, t-shirt, bouncing a ball. And he's walking down the court, and all he does is he points at that rookie and goes. And he went on to spank him, badly apparently.
The key thing is that you don't even remember that rookie's name.
Well, yeah, I don't remember anybody else's name. But you should totally. Yeah. You should totally look it up on the thing, and
well, you know what?
You should probably totally look up that story and look at it. And, MJ came around because I've been watching basketball. Like, I started as a kid. I played all provincial, all star when I was a kid in basketball and stuff like that. But I started watching when I was just a little kid. My first exposure I was lucky. I got introed into basketball watching Magic and Larry. And so I was kind of a Boston Celtics kid, right? Because you had Larry, you had Danny Ainge, you had Dennis Johnson, you had Kevin McHale, you had Parrish, you just had that lineup, right? And then you had the dominant Lakers of the time. So that's probably one of the reasons why I loved Winning Time so much, because it covered that era. I mean, in my opinion, the NBA still never had characters like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Like they are the two greatest characters, I think.
They were in a rough patch, man. The marketing for the game had to go through somebody, and they chose the two perfect, complete opposites of each other.
They saved the NBA.
Yeah, they saved.
Larry and Magic saved the NBA.
And we could absolutely save this topic for our sports show.
Yeah, we totally should. But yeah, anyway. All right, what's next?
All right, we got like 16 more, so we got to get through these.
Okay.
All right. DJ says, if the makers of the live-action Moana movie said, due to the animated version not being that old, we are going to follow on the story, so it would essentially be a part 3, would you have liked that idea or just stick to the normal formula? So it going from animated into live action for the sequel.
What are they talking about?
So like Moana 2, and then the live action is Moana 3, as opposed to the live action just being a redo of Moana.
But the live action is a redo of Moana.
Yeah.
But they're saying, like, what if the live action was like part 3?
Oh, it's like part 3?
Yeah.
No. I don't think it would be a good idea if you're doing literally a series of films that you jump between mediums.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think you do part 1 animated, part 2 animated, part 3 live action.
Right.
Listen, we've seen Moana, and it's going to be a cool, different kind of experience to see the movie now, that movie that we love, in a completely different medium. It creates a different experience. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I don't know how good it's going to end up being, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. All right, what's next?
Okay, DJ says, didn't know anything about Dune's lore, so when I sat down in the movie and part 1 came on the screen, something in me sank. You are 100% right. If general public know there will be some of the story not wrapped up, it's a turnoff. It's just how we are built.
I think it can be a turnoff in advance.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's any kind of a detriment when you actually watch the film.
Because you're going to be like, ooh, more of this good stuff? Yes.
Yeah, I really, so yeah, I mean, I understand that. You think, oh, this is part of the story. But again, Star Wars is part 1. A New Hope is part 1. Fellowship of the Ring is part 1.
Right.
So on and so forth. So I get that. Yeah. But I mean, it's no different than when you watch a James Bond film, guess what? There's going to be another James Bond film sometime later.
Right.
When you go to see a Mission Impossible film, there's going to be another Mission Impossible film later. So it's just a matter of breaking points. That's really all.
And basically everyone's just saying, don't put part something in your title, please.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
don't make it like already something that's an issue.
Built in, right.
because honestly, I think that hurt Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning
Absolutely.
Part 1.
Yeah, I do too.
Which
For me
is now
too.
why they've changed the name of the movie. Dead Reckoning Part 1 is now just called Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. And this new one is called Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. It's one of the reasons they did that, because that hurt the film. All right, what's next?
Okay, DJ says, however, I do think, this was a 2-parter. So, however, I do think 80% knew Infinity War had a follow-up. That's what we were saying, as did Back to the Future 2. Both had massive buzz that very few was going to wait. I guess that's the exception. That's just kind of what we said. Like, if you know, it's like built in, like Lord of the Rings.
Endgame is not a second part to Infinity War.
No, it's just a different Avengers movie.
But I just want everybody to understand this.
Yeah.
Endgame is not part 2 of Infinity War.
Right.
Infinity War was a full, complete beginning, middle, end movie done.
Right.
It just so happens that it was a movie that the bad guy won.
I mean, they could
then they did another movie later on.
Yeah.
Where, hey, 5 years after that, now there's a new story. It's much like how, Captain America Winter Soldier is not part 2 of Captain America the First Avenger. It's Captain America First Avenger is its own movie, beginning, middle, and done. And then later they did another movie that picked up from there. That's what Endgame was to Infinity War.
And hence the problem when they announced Infinity War as Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2 during that presentation.
That's why they changed it.
People assumed that Endgame, oh, they just renamed Part 2.
Yeah,
to
because
Endgame.
and Kevin Feige talked about that. They had to change the title of it because it wasn't two parts. They were two different movies.
Absolutely.
Where just that one had an ending where the bad guy won. And the second one is a movie that picks up later, but it's another story.
And it rectified it or
yeah.
whatever.
Anyway, all right, what's next?
Seconds from Disastrous says, so last night I sat down to watch the new Billy Bob Thornton show Landman and instantly got hooked. Looked at who was involved and surprised. Taylor Sheridan. This dude is on fire. Every show of his I watch, I end up loving and then find out it was him.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited to watch it. I haven't seen the first episode of Landman yet, but whether it's Mayor of Kingstown, which I love, Yellowstone, which I love, even Tulsa King, which I'm not going to say I love Tulsa King, but I quite enjoy it. I like, that's the Stallone show. If Taylor Sheridan puts out a new show, I'm going to watch it. And Landman looks really good, so I'm looking to tune into it. All right, what's next?
Matan says, who will be out first, Kathleen Kennedy or from Lucasfilm or Pep Guardiola from Manchester City after losing 5 games in a row? I don't know who Pep is, but I'm going to guess Pep.
Yeah, I'll guess Pep. I don't watch soccer.
Put a Pep in the step.
Yeah, it sounds like he's
I
about to go.
don't watch soccer.
Five
Although
straight wins? Ugh.
Ann and I have started getting into going to LAFC games. It's a real fun environment. I gotta say, like, I'm not a huge soccer fan, but that's a big fun environment. And obviously I've gotten more into it because I love Ted Lasso and Welcome to Wrexham.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have no idea what the name of the coach of Manchester is. But yes, probably the manager of Manchester. All right, what's next?
Chubbs GPT says, hey crew, it's my birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
36 an existential crisis kind of got me a bit down lately. Then I came across Man on the Inside with Ted Danson. Really good show with good heart. That show plus the Campea Show helping me cope with it. Thanks for all you do.
You know, it's funny. We just watched something on Netflix. I'm not talking about Arcane, but we watched something on Netflix. And then one of the things that is suggested after that was the new Ted Danson show.
Yeah, Man on the Inside.
And I'm like, oh, this looks interesting because I love Ted Danson. He was so good in The Good Place. But I didn't watch it. So I don't know anything about the show, but I've heard good things about it and it looks pretty interesting. So I'm going to have to go check it out. All right, what's next?
AL says, if Kraven flops, do you think Sony might finally abandon their spin-off Spider-Man universe?
Nope.
I'm
Never going to happen.
not talking about the Spider-Man IP as a whole because they're obviously not giving it away. I'm talking about like Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven.
Nope. They're going to see, because a part of the thing is they have to have a new movie in production every X number of years. I don't know what the exact timeline is, but Sony has to, in order for them to keep the IP, they have to make a movie every certain number of years, or at least be in production of a new movie every certain number of years. And that's the price tag for Sony to keep the IP. And it's a price tag Sony is totally willing to pay. They think that's a bargain. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Now, hopefully, Kraven will be good. Again, much better director than Morbius or Madam Web. Much better writers than Morbius or Madam Web. Especially the guy who wrote the final screenplay of it is the guy who did the Equalizer films. There are some other credited writers who wrote earlier drafts, but whatever. I think there's a chance Kraven is good. I hope it is at any rate. We'll see. But it doesn't matter whether it's a big flop to them. This is what Sony has to pay to keep the IP, and to Sony, it's a bargain. Because they're going to keep making all that big, juicy, delicious MCU Spider-Man money because they're the distributors of it. And that's all that really matters to them. So, nope. If anybody out there is thinking that, oh, maybe if Kraven flops, Sony will give up Spider-Man. No. Oh, you dear, sweet, naive child. No. Sony ain't giving it up. Yeah. Not ever.
Unless Sony take like tanks as a studio and then things up for...
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a comic could hit whatever. Yeah, or Marvel comes along, offers them $8 billion. Sure. But other than something extreme,
right?
Sony ain't ever given it up.
No.
So, yeah. All right, what's next?
Just Curious says, hey guys, now that Arcane is over, what are your overall thoughts of the second season? I loved it and can't wait for more stories by this team.
Again, not as good as season one. I thought it started really great. And it's just that, again, for me, and we already talked about it earlier, so I keep this short. Just as the more and more the story got away from just the story of the city, the story of the battle of the caste system, the more and more it got away from Vi and Jinx, it lost me a little bit. I just wasn't as interested. Like, don't get me wrong, like Jace and Victor were really interesting side characters in the show, but they didn't carry the show. And the more and more it became about them, or the more and more it became about, I can't remember the girl who found out she was a witch. It's like, okay, she's a really interesting political side character, but now that you're dedicating entire episodes to her, I don't know. It lost me a little bit. I still enjoyed the second season very much. Don't get me wrong. I still enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, to be honest with you, I was a little dissatisfied with the final 3 episodes. All right, what's next?
Melon says, took my daughters to see Wicked over the weekend. My old theater kid heart swelled. They got to see their 30-year-old Papa weep. I agree, John. Ariana is a revelation. Arrivo is one to watch for years to come. Unlimited. I'm guessing that's part of a song.
I'll tell you what. Cynthia Erivo is a force. I mean, I may have been really turned off by her whole stuff about the fan art and everything, but that's a separate issue. She is a force. Tony, Emmy, Grammy-winning performer, and was playing some soundtrack stuff from some of her other productions too. Like, she is one of the best pure vocalists on the planet, and she was fabulous in the movie. I talk more about Ariana Grande because I was just shocked. Like, Cynthia Erivo, massive award-winning performer, not surprised. Right? How good she was, great, and we're not surprised. But I talked more about Ariana Grande because I was shocked. Like, I just couldn't believe how good she was in this. And the two of them, fabulous on-screen chemistry together. It was really good. All right, what's next?
All right. Anonymous says, can't wait for a new James Bond, but I would also be interested in a universe. I think M is a fascinating character. They often have to deal with politicians, and then there's other spies that you also have in the science divisions. Many stories could be told.
I'm not interested in a James Bond shared cinematic universe. That being said, I would not be completely opposed to a one-off M movie, or a one-off Q movie, or a one-off Pennywise movie. I wouldn't be if they had a great idea for one and wanted and thought this would be great, like this inventor, creator, always the man behind the curtain creating it, but what happens when he is forced out into the field and whatever happens, kind of a MacGyver maybe kind of movie surrounding Q. That could be pretty cool, but I don't think a shared James Bond cinematic universe movie or like a shared cinematic universe thing would work overall, but a one-off could be kind of fun if they did it right. I don't know if anybody would see it yet. I said Pennywise. I meant Moneypenny.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Pennywise is the dark evil clown that lives in the sewers. That's a completely different character. All right, what's next?
Jesus says, I saw Gladiator on Friday. I was entertained. However, upon a Gladiator rewatch, I see how many story beats were copied. It was so cool to see all the people at the theater on Friday night. I actually stood in line to get in, and it felt good.
I liked Gladiator too. I did. I did not love it. I think there were some issues. One of the big issues was so many plot beats were just Gladiator all over again, which was kind of a downer, but grand action sequences. I enjoyed the film. I just think it could have been better. That's all. All right, what's next?
Nengang says, a fan asked James Gunn on Thread if he's going to do a release schedule like MCU with the release dates in advance. Gunn replied he won't greenlight any future projects before having a finished script. Star Wars should take note, and MCU for Blade.
I loved that answer, by the way. That no dates, nothing's announced until we have a finished script. Not this, let's announce this movie. Great. And then like 6 months later, we announced this movie like 6 months ago. We should probably hire a writer to start writing it. Like, I like, and listen, for the most part, it's worked for the MCU. I'm not going to say that it hasn't. For the most part, it has worked for them. But I love that James Gunn is bringing that philosophy to it. It's like when we have a done script, that is when we set dates. And I think that's the right move. I think it'll pay off for them. All right, what's next?
Dr. Stinky says Arcane remains top 2 shows ever made. Season 1 is a masterpiece. Season 2 was almost a masterpiece. Only minor problem I had with Season 2 is some characters felt sidelined compared to others, and it was harder to follow than Season 1. But Season 2 overall is still amazing.
Yeah, I mean, again, Jinx and Vi became secondary characters in Season 2. And I did not like that. I mean, the show's, like, literally, it's their faces on the thing. It's supposed to be about them. Anyway, the other thing that I haven't mentioned really is they got too much into the abstract. Like, what is the arcane? What's this? How does Victor suddenly have the ability to do what he did without going into details?
Mhm.
Like, well, it's the heck. Okay, that's fine. But they've never really got, like, it just felt so ethereal near the end. That's just like, we don't need a rhyme or reason for why certain things will happen. We're just going to say it happened. And you know what it really felt like to me? It kind of felt like to me, and I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying it felt to me like after they finished episode 6, they got told, oh, by the way, we're not getting a season 3. So these next 3 episodes have to wrap up the series. Now, obviously that's not what happened. I'm just saying that's what it felt like to me. It felt like after episode 6, they told the showrunners, oh, you don't get another season. You only have 3 episodes left. Tie everything up. And they just kind of rushed to bring it to some kind of conclusion. And again, I'm sounding like I didn't like season 2. I did. I quite enjoyed it. But just, it wasn't on the same level as season 1.
You just want the R-Truth from Arcane.
I just want the R-Truth from Arcane.
Sorry,
yes.
that was a little late. I tried to fit that in.
Little WWE.
Didn't work, but I
those
still
out
wanted it there.
All right, what's next?
Mr. I says, was on a Luc Besson kick this weekend. Seems like he doesn't do sequels other than being a writer on the Taken movies. What movie of his would you like to see a sequel to? Mine is The Professional. I'd like to see Natalie Portman's Matilda grown up. I think that would be the best.
That's the one we've talked about over the years,
Yeah.
right? We've talked about over the years that if you're going to do one, like a picking up of where's Natalie Portman's character now? The problem is Leon the Professional, not a ton of people have seen it.
Right.
And you do, well, if you did it, you certainly couldn't call it The Professional 2, right? Because that people are going, I've never seen The Professional 1. So if you did it, I mean, I would be interested in it. I think Natalie Portman would be interested in it. I just don't know that if they, I just don't know if they could get an audience for it.
I wouldn't mind going
I'd
back
be
to
there.
I wouldn't mind going back to the world of Fifth Element.
Or Valerian.
Not Valerian, but
Not Valerian.
But Fifth Element, I wouldn't
City
mind
of a
going back
Thousand
to.
Planets. Man, yeah, I remember I was invited to the world premiere of that movie. And I went and like dressed up the whole bit. And like Ann and I both walked out and we're just like, oh, like, let's get out of here. Like we skipped the after party because we're like, let's get out of here before anybody from the movie comes up and asks us what we thought about it. And then we'd have to lie. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a movie that could have been really good.
Too bad.
And it visually was great.
Yeah, visually.
Valerian, the City of a Thousand Planets looked really good, but oh, it was a rough movie, man.
Yeah.
Rough movie. All right, what's next?
Okay, Mr. I says, to go on with my question, you're in Vegas and there's a big fight to the death to bet on. That seems violent. Leon the Professional versus John Wick. Who do you throw? John Wick.
Easily John Wick. Easily John Wick. Next. I
Exactly.
mean, that's a simple
Exactly.
question. John Wick wins that fight easily.
That Transformers fan, this is our final tip. I've been watching the OG Transformers show for my 7-year-old son every night before bed. That's
Nice.
really cool. That's super cool. It's slightly outdated.
It is
It is really
It's
out
really
there.
outdated.
Slightly
I can't even go back.
It is extremely outdated,
Yeah,
but I
that's-
love it anyway.
yeah.
All right, sorry. Let's continue.
It's slightly outdated, but he loves the show dearly. Yesterday, we watched the 80s movie when Optimus died. Oh, how do you like it? That was my favorite part. He walked out of the room crying. You got better of Transformers coming. Come on.
I fucking
You
hate.
actually chose to show him.
You showed him that?
What a
hate that 80s movie.
Man, we were on board with you until you
no,
did that.
but I get it. A father's looking at his son, seeing if he reacts the same way he reacted.
No,
when watched
he
it.
wants
And
to-
that's an interesting
No,
thing.
no.
But yeah, it's cruel. It's at the same time.
He's
cruel.
trying to see what his son is made of. That's what he was doing
And he
there.
posted it on TikTok.
I will never forgive Hasbro for that abomination. I will never forgive them for that movie and what they did. How they just literally flipped off all the kids in the world. Oh, you bought all those toys? Now they're useless.
Yeah.
Got to go buy the new toys now because your favorite ones are dead.
You know my
I
favorite
hated
part?
That. What's that?
Is when that red, hot, red paint turned gray, and the eyes.
So when a
and the
robot
eyes
dies,
shut off.
his paint job.
What a slow, like knife to the side, like slowly digging in it. Just kill him. Just blow his head off. No, he has to lay down and say, "Oh."
Let me be honest with you. I didn't mind
He transformed
the
to death.
idea of killing off Optimus. I honestly didn't. I didn't mind the idea of killing off Optimus. I mean, till all are one. I didn't mind the idea of killing off Optimus. It's that they killed off everybody. All the toys.
That's so funny to me now.
It's so funny.
Hilarious.
But I still remember going, because remember I've told it, like, I used to buy the Transformers, right? Cut out the character picture and their power level bar from the back of the package and put them up together on my wall. And my entire bedroom wall was covered with these Transformer things. And I remember going into my room and tearing them all down.
I knew it.
I
thought
tore
you
them
painted them
all
gray
down.
and white.
Yeah, paint them in gray. Take out the color.
I think Transformers.
And on that day, John became a man.
Yeah.
I think
Oh.
Transformers movie for preparing me for the G.I. Joe movie. Because after that movie, I knew every movie I watched in
Well,
animation.
Was that the Serpentor one?
What, the one where
With the
Duke
Weather
dies.
Dominator?
Duke dies, I think. He gets shot.
Oh, you're talking about the live action one.
No, the real. There was a
Cartoon.
G.I.
There's
Joe,
a movie.
Yeah. So it prepared me for nothing's off the table. Transformers did change.
The most cynical part is, I guarantee you, at Toys R Us, all the new toys were on as soon as that movie released.
And then they had to walk it back so
I
fast.
know.
They had to walk it back so fast. But anyway, yeah, that was me. All right. Guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show a part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us fun, interesting things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank the guys in the room with me, Ray Ora,
See you guys.
Jonathan Voico.
Transformers!
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.